a situation where they will also have a lot of private money in Lagos. I mean, the Lagos economy is run mainly by the private sector, not by government. So you can be in Lagos and you never do business with government or anything that has to do with government. So Lagos is very peculiar. Coming down to Rivers State and Port Harcourt is developing a bit slower, and it's understandable because we don't have the kind of private sector investments rushing to Rivers State. Even though the population of Rivers State in the past 2-3 decades has also grown astronomically, but it is not as fast, and Lagos State obviously has a bigger land mass than Lagos does. I mean, I always advise that it's not everybody that can afford to buy a land or acquire property in the heart of Port Harcourt. You must not get a property in Peter Odili or all the other central areas, or you go to D-Line where you have to probably demolish an existing building to put up whatever you want to put up. So the other directly adjacent areas that you can still acquire good property at reasonable rates, depending on your budget, and still develop something. So the only thing now is that government also must take a conscious decision to also open up those areas for fast inflow of traffic. Right now, the biggest business magnets we have in Rivers State is the government. So the secretariats are all located, and all those are located in the Central Business District, which is somewhere around town. Government house is around there. The LNG new headquarters and all that is also around the same central area. So nobody wants to stay very far away from the central area. That is the major issue with Port Harcourt. So we have to now start thinking of setting up magnets a little bit out of those sites to attract people to move out of the city centers of Port Harcourt, move towards the greater Port Harcourt, move towards a Quere local government, towards Igrita and all the other outlying places to develop. And I mean, the good thing is there are some new estates that are coming up in places like Omagwa, Igrita, and along the Obiri-Quere Airport Road. We have there's a new name for that road. We have developments coming up and all that. So people should start actually thinking of moving a little bit out, depending on the budget they are working with.
So, but evaluating what has happened since creation hitherto, what's the push we need to give government to do this, to attract or put those magnets in those areas? For instance, now there's the road creation and bridges all over around River State. So what happens to the suburbs, those local governments? Can't we take some of those roads, bridges, and what are the most important magnets you think they should take to those areas that will quickly attract people out of Port Harcourt?
Well, the most important magnets are things like major hospitals. If I have a major hospital that is going to be placed a bit outside of Port Harcourt, like I know for a fact that UPTH, where it was, and Uniport, where it is, has attracted development that has spiraled towards the UPTH and University of Port Harcourt, which is a magnet. So when you cite a university, when you cite a polytechnic, when you cite a big hospital, people tend to just start clustering towards that. It's a natural instinct of man. So those are the major magnets. Now, government can help also, not just by citing those things, but also having good road network that taper out to those facilities. The good thing is that the River State government has done pretty well with road construction and road infrastructure. So it's just a matter of making sure that those roads are properly maintained, and also more roads are built leading out to those magnets are in those places. I know the Obiri-Quere Airport Road is in relatively very good condition right now. I mean, there are other roads. So there was a master plan for a larger circular road in Port Harcourt. I don't know what has happened to that one, but it's also something that might be dusted out of the shelf, brought out of the shelf, and dusted and implemented. That master plan was a major ring road that will pass through Igrita, go all the way to Eleme, and just make a large ring road around Port Harcourt. That ring road will have been a major boost to decentralizing or to pushing out people from the core city centers towards all these other suburban areas.
Beautiful. So, but what about electricity in those areas too?
Yeah, electricity now is a privatized thing. I mean, I know that the disco in Port Harcourt is fed. That's Port Harcourt Electricity Distribution Company, and so electricity mainly is not fully a government thing, and electricity is also something that rests properly with the federal government of Nigeria. So the federal government of Nigeria are the ones that are really regulating these electricity companies, but I also believe that these companies want to make money. So it's also good that government even the Rivers State government comes and uses their own influence to ensure that those companies, the distribution company in Nigeria and the one in Port Harcourt in particular, pushes out electricity to those areas. I know one thing, that once developments come up, electricity just goes after the development, because for goodness sake, everybody, they want to make money. It's a private company.
So development precedes electricity, or electricity precedes development?
Development precedes electricity most of the time.
Okay.
You just run electricity into the bush and then wait for development to happen there.
Okay.
Most times when you know there's something there and there's a need for electricity there, those people will cry out for electricity and electricity comes to meet them. The major thing is how fast does it happen? That is where the difference between the first world and the third world comes to play.
Okay, all right. So, but then what about the issue of security? Has become number one on our front burner now. Security, people push, magnets are sent to certain areas, but they come back telling us those areas are not secured, especially newly developed areas. Will people now have to buy into private security or still rely on government?
Well, I think security is one area that Nigeria has scored very poorly in. When it comes to security in the country as a whole, we have scored very, very poorly, especially in the last couple of years. And that is just, everybody knows that as the truth. And Rivers State as a whole is relatively secure. When you look at, if you compare it to a lot of places in the north. I know some places in Kaduna, you can't even if they give you all the money in the world, you want to and tell you go and build there, you don't go and build there. You want to stay in the very innermost part of Kaduna where you're safest, because of kidnapping, because of the marauders that we have out there that government seem to be helpless about and all that. So security, yes, it's an issue, but it's not as serious as it is in some other states of the country. Rivers State is doing a lot better in the area of security. What I will say is that we should also, as citizens, also try our best to help ourselves. We cannot fully depend 100% on the security infrastructure we have in the country. We also, that's why, and luckily enough, recently neighborhoods all over the state capital and even the surrounding local governments, all neighborhoods tend to make conscious security measures to protect themselves from criminals and all that. The biggest challenge, as you rightly pointed out, in moving into the suburbs to develop is the issue of security. And that's why it's always better to develop in groups, which means you don't just go and buy your land and then start developing and you're in the middle of nowhere. It's good for you to make sure that if you have friends, you have a cooperative, or you guys go and buy it together. So you develop it together and you can pull together resources to protect yourself. And of course, that doesn't mean that the police should shy away from their responsibility of providing security for the people. That doesn't shy away from the fact that government will still have to protect the people. But the little we can do to secure ourselves, we should be able to do that one, and then set up a network whereby we can also call for quick assistance from the law enforcement agents.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much. If you are just joining us, the program is Real Estate Focus. And with me in the studio is architect Andrew Asomba Ebuono. He's the immediate past chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Architects here in Rivers State. My name is Mercy Joe King. Stay with us.
Real Estate Focus. Everything about world-class cities, housing providers, property companies, estate surveyors, developers and valuers, construction giants, architects, engineers, investors, bankers and funders, landowners, town planners, project managers, roofing and metal experts, door and paints, environmentalists, policy makers, finishing and furnishing experts. Real Estate Focus. In-depth analysis with the professionals, their roles and responsibilities towards a world-class continent that is innovative, smart and forward-looking. World-class cities attract people, businesses and investment. They lead in corporate presence, magnetic appeal to talent, attraction to capital, soft power and informal influence. Turn on your reminders. Tune in every Monday at 12:30 p.m. on Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt. Real Estate Focus with Mercy Joe King. For advert placement, partnership, sponsorship and inquiries, call now 0803 336 5950. 0803 336 5950. Email us realestateafrica@yahoo.com. Link us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, tweet us, and watch videos on YouTube. Real Estate Focus. Build your imagination.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, the program is Real Estate Focus. My name is Mercy Joe King. Architect, before we went on the break, we were talking about suburbs, developing new areas and concurrently providing security. But building houses and making choices about where you should purchase your land and the kind of houses you should build, people don't seem to have the balance of the right information. What information should people be looking out for before they make those choices?
Yeah, thank you very much. That's a very important question. The most important information for when you want to go into developing a private property for yourself, look at your earning power and the budgeting. And only you have that information. It's just a pity that in Nigeria, most clients and most individuals seem to think that is a private information they should keep to themselves. But in truth, you have to actually share that information with those professionals that are into that, so you can be properly advised. Because if you don't have that information, we cannot advise you. If you want to buy a land and you are thinking that, your first step in building a house is to acquire a property, a land where you can eventually develop, if you have an idea of what the budget is, if the budget is not more than 5 million, then we'll have to start thinking of moving a bit out into the suburbs. And there are beautiful areas in the suburb that you can actually spend that kind of money and get something relatively good, from the Neka axis down to some places in the LMA axis, down towards Igrita, and all the way to Omagwa and all that. There are lovely places, new neighborhoods. Rupoku is there. Even some parts of Elios that are, but basically Rupoku and all that. There are places where you can really use that kind of amount and acquire a good land. The most important thing is you should plan to fit your budgets. That is the most important thing. Get the advice of the right professionals. Architect, your estate surveyor and valuer. Those are the ones that are more or less experts in knowing what these areas cost and all that. Especially, I always tell my friends that the economists in the built environment is the estate surveyor and valuer. They are the economists in the built environment. So those are the ones that will actually tell you, hey, this is where it's cheaper. The architect is more involved in trying to tell you what is best for you when you go beyond the acquisition stage. Of course, the architect is also trained to give you certain information like every other professional is trained to do. So if you get the right idea of what your budget is and get the right property, then you can now look at what do you really want to do. Can your budget fit what you really want? Because they have wants and they have needs. Your wants must be tailored by your budget to fit into your needs. That is what it boils down to. And when you now agree on that and you now know what you want, then you can now develop based on that. And then some people might also need to look at the prospects of their property, not just housing them, but also earning extra money for them in the long run. And that's where people decide whether they want to build in the property where they will just enjoy the luxury of that property to themselves and their family, or whether they want to build and share it with tenants, so they will still have some earning from the property at the end of the day. Those are personal decisions that are taken by the client. And then with the proper advice of the professionals, we can now guide you and tell you this is what you can do based on your budgeting. I always tell people that it's very important for you to have a clear understanding, have a clear knowledge of what you want to do from the initial stage. We have people out there that they are thinking of one thing and then in midway they suddenly change and they say, I went here and I saw this and I've changed my mind about it. It just doesn't work. What you saw in the other man's property, the man has planned for it. You should not be influenced by what you saw in the other man's property that the man has totally planned for, and then you now suddenly make rubbish of your own planning because you've seen something that you think from the beginning. If all fingers are not equal, every person has a separate DNA from the other person. So just plan with what you want to achieve and go for it and achieve it. After achieving it, you can now say, okay, my next one will now be like the other man. And then you start budgeting and start planning for that.
Okay, beautiful. So from what you said, architect, should it be a priority based on comfort or aesthetics?
I always tell people that the most important thing in life is comfort. Aesthetics is the add-on.
Okay.
Anybody can give you aesthetics.
Okay.
A very senior colleague, when we had the NIA 5th presidential lecture series, recently cracked a joke on the fact that if you meet a lady and she looks very, very beautiful, please don't marry her yet until she removes all the makeups and all that, and you're sure of what you're getting. So you don't look at only the aesthetics and then I mean, the final thing is the comfort. That is just a way of looking at it, with humor, So it's actually all about comfort. Make sure you build for your comfort.
Okay.
What the architect and a well-trained architect does to add some aesthetics to that comfort that you're looking for. And when I mean comfort now, we're talking about function. You know the amount of the number of rooms you want to have, all the spaces you want to have in there. Those should be your number one priority. Then of course you can trust the architect to add all the aesthetics you want to be added to that. But don't just look at, I want the aesthetic. I don't care about what is inside there. It's just aesthetic, and then when you cannot live in a house. Oh, it looks so fine from outside, but you can't even. It's not habitable. So that becomes a problem.
Okay. So, but recently the issues about topography. People moving. There's this bandwagon or stampede. Everybody at the same time we're buying, purchasing, and building. And when the rain comes, we discover that this area is a swamp, or not very conducive, or we did not do the right thing. What decision should people take when it comes to such things?
You have asked a very important question. When it comes to purchase or acquiring property, it's always important to make sure that you ask questions. And the best person to help you ask those questions is a professional. Your professional will go in there and look at what you like and ask important questions about that and decide on whether that property is susceptible to flooding and all that. So it's very, very important ab initio. Don't pay money for any land until you look at and find out whether the topography works out, whether it is you're buying a land in a floodplain, because there are so many floodplains and places where runoff water settle before they finally run off, and so you'll be prone to all kinds of flooding in the long run. So it's very, very important that you consult the right professional. If your architect is there, he will advise you when you're going to purchase a land, or your estate surveyor is there, he will advise you when you're going to purchase a land, so that at the end of the day, you know the topography and what I normally call the flood level of that area. Every area has a flood level. The highest flood level might be happening maybe once in 10 years, or once in 5 years, once in 7 years. They also have the annual flood levels that this is going to happen. I'm not taking into cognizance now the madness of some people going to block drainages and all that. But generally, you have, so it's very, and then every building that you're doing in a place like River State, your ground slab should be well elevated. Anything less than 1 meter is not good enough for me. So even if it's in a very good area that's not prone to flooding, elevate your ground levels, because tomorrow government might decide to put a road there and decide that the road should be a particular height, and suddenly your substructure is, or your ground slab is below the road level. Once that happens, you're finished.
All right, then let's go back to the initial question, how we started, looking at how long the state has been created, and the level of development, how synonymous it is with the number of years we have had. But talking about smart cities, when do we foresee a smart city in Nigeria? Do we even have a smart city in the country? I don't think so. Even in Africa, like we have in New York, we have in Los Angeles and the Las Vegas. So how do we work having this perspective for the future, building smart cities in Nigeria?
Smart cities are conscious decisions of government and developers. They don't happen by accident. Smart cities are not accidental at all. They are consciously thought of and consciously decided on. So now we're talking about policies that, hey, we want to develop this as a smart city. Most times you have big organizations like NLNG and all that, they are best positioned to take that consideration because they have the financial muscle to drive it through. I know that the LNGs we have in the country right now, their head offices and all that are smart offices. So if you have smart offices that are prone to 21st century technology, where everything happens as the way it's supposed to happen, then you can have a smart city. So smart cities are really purpose-driven projects. And apart from it, maybe Korea, some places in China, don't have smart cities across Africa because we don't really, maybe our economy is not strong enough to drive it, or the general development level. Because we're already suffering from basic issues of power. We don't have adequate power in Nigeria. And smart cities, you must have the adequacy of power for you to have a smart city. But that doesn't stop you from having a small smart estate. You have to now shrink it to a point where you can say, hey, Nigerian liquefied natural gas can decide to develop a smart estate for their staff. The government or any big company can develop a smart estate for their staff. But when you increase it to the scope of smart cities, it has to do with government. It has to do with decision of government. The Land Use Act rests all land in Nigeria in the custody of our governors And of course, the federal government is there playing their own role and all that. So for smart cities at that scale, it has to be a deliberate policy of government that there's this new area now, want to turn it into a smart city, and so it's purpose designed to work as a smart city in every element. And of course, as I said before, the technology must be brought in. What makes a smart city smart, or an estate smart, is the technology you brought into play.
Beautiful, good, well said. Okay, so conclusively, architect, I'd like you to touch on that area you spoke about earlier, what informs people's decision, because I've had these issues come back, people talk to me about it, I bought here, I haven't developed, I'm trying to sell and all of that. So what should be the fundamental information for them before they buy a land?
Well, the fundamental information is, for buying a land, there are two major criteria. One is economic, the other one has to do with the physical environment of the place you're buying. You can put it together as socio-economic conditions of the place you want to buy. The cost of where you're buying and the prospects of it, because land prospecting is a major activity of any businessman or any country or any individual. When you're buying a place, you should also be thinking of that. Will the price of that keep appreciating? If it's going to appreciate in a very short time, then it's probably going to be a good buy if you can afford to buy the place.
So what are the indices that portend that such place will appreciate and at what time?
Well, the first index is that development is moving quickly into the area. If you buy a place and suddenly they do a very good road, well-tarred road passing through there, property automatically goes up a big notch. So that is the most important. Then it also attract other people to come and build around. The moment people start building around, the property elevates in value automatically. Talking about land prospecting now. You can buy a property in a place and then 5 years from there, you come there, there's nothing happening there, or you only meet bachelors, others who bought like you only have bachelors there, and there's no physical sign of substantive development there. Of course, the appreciation will be a bit slower. That is just the way it is. So the most important decision, as I said, is the economic factor. You look at the economic factor.
Oh, thank you very much, architect. The program has been Real Estate Focus. With me in the studio is architect Andrew Asomba Ebono. He's the immediate past chairman of the Nigerian Institute of Architects here in Rivers State. Tweet at us. Our phone number is 080-333-65950. 080-333-65950. Send us an email, send us a WhatsApp chat. Follow us on Facebook, like us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. My name is Mercy Joe King.
Whether it's happening in Port Harcourt, South, Nigeria, or around the world, we've got you covered. On air, online, delivering balanced news and unbiased analysis. Today, 95.1 FM.
Today, 95.1 FM. Port Harcourt. News update.
Hello and good afternoon. Here is the business news update in Today 95.1 FM. I am Wealth Wilson. The House of Representatives is moving to prevent some ministries, departments and agencies from further spending and diverting the revenue they generate, especially the Nigerian Ports Authority, the Nigerian Communications Commission and the Nigerian Maritime Administration and Safety Agency. The affected MDAs will now be confined to the single treasury account of the federal government, while they can only spend funds for the purpose that were appropriated by the National Assembly. Chairman of the House Committee on Public Accounts, Wole Oke, who sponsored 4 bills seeking to amend the NPA, NCC and NIMASA Acts, as well as the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Oke particularly cited the current issues of the NPA under the leadership of the suspended Managing Director, Hadiza Bala Usman. The bill for an act to amend the Nigerian Ports Authority Act 1999 is seeking to introduce a new subsection under Section 13 of the NPA Act, which says all revenues accrued to the authority under any of the sources or from any other source shall be paid into the Federation account. The Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Niger Delta Affairs, Baba Yoado, has disclosed that the federal government is working to ensure the completion of the East-West Road. Adu said the ministry would spend 70% of its 2021 budget towards the completion of the project. In a statement by the minister's director of press, Doworishe Patricia, the permanent secretary was quoted as saying that he was satisfied that the contractors were working in line with the directives of the President, Muhammadu Buhari, to ensure that the project was completed before the first quarter of 2022. Economic and financial crimes experts have raised concerns as the Nigerian economy grew slower in the first quarter of this year compared to the same period of 2020. The National Bureau of Statistics said the gross domestic product grew by 0.51% in quarter one of 2021 compared to the 1.87% growth recorded in quarter two in 2020. The experts described the first quarter GDP growth as sluggish and weak, and declines were recorded in critical sectors of the economy amid rising poverty and unemployment. The country emerged from recession in the fourth quarter of 2020 as the GDP expanded slightly by 0.11%, with annual real GDP growth of minus 1.92%. According to the report, real GDP grew at minus 13.93% in the first quarter of 2021 compared to the fourth quarter of 2020, reflecting a generally slow pace of economic activities at the start of the year. It said in the quarter under review, aggregate GDP stood at 40.01 trillion naira in nominal terms, up 12.25% from 35.65 trillion naira in the first quarter of 2020. Reports said investors in the Nigerian stock market lost 600 billion naira last week as the market capitalization of equities fell below the 23 trillion naira mark. The Nigerian Exchange Limited All-Share Index and market capitalization declined by 2.93% to close the week at 38,324.07 basis points and 19.98 trillion naira respectively. All other indices finished lower, with the expectation of the NGX Oil and Gas, NGX Growth and NGX Sovereign Bond indices, which appreciated by 7.39%, 0.62% and 3.02%, while the NSE ASEM index closed flat. A total turnover of 1.05 billion shares worth 11.54 billion naira in 17,233 deals were traded last week by investors on the floor of the exchange, compared to 840.33 million shares valued at 9.56 billion naira that exchanged hands in 13,239 deals the previous week. However, 26 equities appreciated in price during the week compared to 33 in the previous week. On the foreign scene, U.S. stock index futures traded higher earlier today after the S&P 500 posted its second negative week in a row the previous week. Futures contracts tied to Dow Jones Industrial Average implied an opening gain of about 151 points, while the S&P 500 futures rose by 0.5%. Tech stocks gained in the pre-market, shaking off another rough period for Bitcoin over the weekend as the cryptocurrency bounced earlier today. The cryptocurrency dropped under 32,000 yesterday, only to recover back above 36,000 today. And that was the business news update on Today 95.1 FM. Do not forget to take responsibility. Wash your hands frequently with soap and running water. Avoid touching your face and high contact surfaces to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Once again, good afternoon. I'm Wealth Wilson, and thank you for listening.
Today's news, today's entertainment, today's sports, today's issues. Today on Today 95.1 FM, Port Harcourt.
I am a proud Nigerian.
I have been placed here by God for a time such as this.
Pack my bags, I ain't coming back.
The degradation, challenges, and problems faced by Nigeria are the perfect backdrop for me to develop and utilize my God-given potential.
I will not complain. I will not criticize. Rather, I will use my skills, gifts, relationships,
and experience to find long-lasting and revolutionary solutions to the many challenges confronting Nigeria.
Nigeria will rise again.
Because I am here, I will leave this nation
a better place than I met it. I will work to make Nigeria a praise on the earth.
I will work to make Nigeria a praise on the earth. So help me God.
Let me tell you how I got this far.
This message is brought to you by Today 95.1 FM, Voice of the People.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's take you into a realm, another dimension, a reality of higher intelligence, discovery, and quantum possibility. Tune in every Monday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. on this station and be part of this journey as we address issues that relate to you and your tech life. It is today's Tech Show on your premium talk, news and sports station. Today, 95.1 FM.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Let's take you into a realm, another dimension, a reality of higher intelligence, discovery, and quantum possibility. Tune in every Monday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. on this station and be part of this journey as we address issues that relate to you and your tech life. It is today's Tech Show on your premium talk, news and sports station. Today, 95.1 FM.
On this very wonderful Monday, and I always say Mondays are fun days, but not for people who think it's always boring and it's always full of too much work. You know, work piled up from the weekend over the weekend.